Hello, my friends. Here it is, the finished Dollar Tree journal. And if you've been following this little adventure with me from the beginning, you know that getting to this point was not exactly a smooth creative journey. But I will say that I like this journal more now than I did somewhere in the middle of making it. I started, with the supplies. And in my mind, I had this question. I knew that the Dollar Tree that is close to me just does not have much. And so my question was, can I make a beautiful junk journal with the limited supplies that I could find at my local store? I think I have the final answer now. And I think it's yes. I think this is a beautiful book. I like, the way it looks, but it's also kind of no. And I'll tell you why. There was a point, this is what I've done with the cover. I just have this flower clip. It's, I took the clip from the hair bow. And so that just clips on and off, and then I just have used the ribbon, as I thought, to make the closure. So it's simple. I just was really wanting to just be finished with it. I have so appreciated reading your comments from the last video. You're all so encouraging to me, and I just so appreciate you telling me how you feel kind of about this whole thing. I know that we can do a lot with limited materials, but I just was not enjoying myself. But as I said, things got a little bit better. While I worked and struggled, I was just kind of fuming. So I have to explain, and maybe this is just boring to you all, but I make journals in a certain way. I usually bind them first. I bind the pages and then I start decorating. And so this, I knew I was going to have to alter the pages first, and so I had to do that much before I could even get it bound. I did make the cover, and the cover was really difficult. And I think that's what kind of started me off feeling frustrated. The cardboard, I used the chipboard from the back of one of the paper pads because I could not find a cake mix. And I found a box of biscuits, and I was going to use that. But that was also really flimsy. The cardboard was too flimsy. So I used the back of the pad, but it was very thin. And the paper, I crumpled it, and then I coffee dyed it. And then I used a little bit of Mod Podge. But the Mod Podge that I got at the Dollar Tree it's shiny, and I really don't like that. I'm used to using my matte gel medium, and anyway, so I was already a little, put off. And then on the inside cover, I used this thin paper, and it wrinkles, and the glue didn't work well. Anyway, I just got off to kind of a bad start, but I finally got the pages done, and we'll go through that in a minute. But I kind of like this initial element. Once I started decorating, I kind of got into it. But I've just used this note card and the envelope and made this little element here in the beginning. This card poster board is just kind of the right weight for me with tags. I like that. So there's journaling space here, and then the belly band. And then I just have made several of these throughout the journal, just taken the paper and folded it for journaling space. And then I also ran into my first problem because the petals from the flowers that I bought were just too big for the inside. They just, it was too big. So that was another problem that I ran into. And in the end, I went back to the Dollar Tree and I bought a little smaller, some smaller flowers. So I have been able to do these little smaller floral embellishments throughout the book. But I do love the playing cards. I mean, that was kind of my vision in the beginning, and I really struggled, wanted to bring that to life. The other thing I got on my second trip back to Dollar Tree was this really pretty ribbon. And this is a high quality ribbon. I was surprised. It's grosgrain ribbon, and then it has this pretty gold stripe in it. So I've been able to use that kind of throughout the book on the tags, and that really elevated the book. I've done this embossing and then used just the paint to kind of enhance that a little bit. I like that. And then here's the some of the Art Deco designs that I tried to do. We talk a lot in our world about limitations being good for creativity, and I think it's true, but I don't know that it's always true. Sometimes a limitation makes us, more inventive, and sometimes it makes us look harder and think differently and find possibilities. And I agree with that. But, sometimes bad paint is just bad paint. I'll just be honest with you. It's the way I feel. So we'll get to that. I'll show you why bad paint is bad paint. This is a little peekaboo pocket here with the cards. So there's another of those little flowers, and you'll see them throughout. I did do some sanding on the cards to make it look more vintage. And then, of course, I've done the splatter, like I explained, used a particular stencil throughout the book. This is a cute idea. I saw this on YouTube, and luckily Dollar Tree has the double-sided tape, and I have that in my stash. So you just put down a strip of that double-sided tape, and then you take the Dollar Tree glitter and sprinkle that on. And that tape is so sticky that the glitter goes on there and it's not coming off. And so, yeah, I used that trick. Thank you very much. I can't remember who that was, but it was a good trick. Here's one of my Art Deco designs. The other thing that helped me out was I went through my stash and found some stickers. I had thought that I had them in my stash, and I couldn't find them in time for the haul video, but I did find them eventually. And this is a tuba, which I don't know if they had tubas in a jazz band, but I liked it, so it's on there. Okay, so here's the first of my gel plate prints. Okay, so I did a stencil and a gel plate, but this paint, I don't know what kind of paint it is. It's not acrylic. I think it might be tempera paint, but whatever it is, it's got a kind of a strange texture. It's thin and thick at the same time. It's thick in texture, so it was very goopy on the texture plate, but it was also thin with the color. The color was thin. So you can see that the edges were difficult. So it didn't give me the results that I wanted. I tried, but sometimes the paint or the material that you're trying to use just doesn't fit the technique you're trying to do. And that was the case with this paint. So, you try to get by sometimes with these materials and it just doesn't do well. However, there is one page in here, you'll see that it worked pretty well. But again, I think that splatter kind of helped it. So the other thing that I did was I got into my stash and used one of my white gel pens, and I'm calling it a tool because, when you're so frustrated and trying to make something look good, I'm just going to be my own lawyer and say that it was a tool. Also, the texture paste. So I knew I wanted to use texture paste on this craft paper, and I have tried Dollar Tree spackle before, and it was so disappointing that I just wasn't willing to make that mistake again. So the texture paste that you see throughout the journal came from my own stash also. So those two things, the white pen and the texture paste, yeah, that was, I guess, kind of cheating. So I think it's okay to say that. I don't think creativity requires us to pretend, that every material is equally good, or that struggling, along with poor materials, somehow makes us more virtuous as an artist. So I'm just going to be okay with it. I think that white really makes that pop. So here you saw this page in the last one, and I did kind of try to, I'm not mimicking a playing card here. That wasn't my point, but I am trying to kind of give the same feeling with the rectangle and the number. Yeah. Anyway, it's just an index card. And my index cards also come from my stash, but they are Dollar Tree. So this is, and the doily is also from my stash of Dollar Tree doilies. And I just have folded that into this little corner tuck. I made this journal card from one of the backs of the note cards, and then the crossword paper, and then this is also a stamp from the Dollar Tree. So you can see that I'm repeating the shapes. I'm repeating, the designs, and that's deliberate. I'm trying to, create some unity in the journal. This is a fun flip out too. So it's the opposite of the one that's on the inside cover. The playing cards, really became really important to me in this journal. They carry a lot of the design, I think. These were some rub-ons that I found in my stash, so that was fun. This is just kind of a fun little belly band here. And this is, if you look really carefully, you'll see the expressions by Hallmark. And I just took the back of the note card and just stamped all over it to kind of cover up the branding. So you can see that the gel prints, you know, are just not that great. The paint just didn't spread well on the plate, and because it was so thin and goopy, you know, the edges became kind of sloppy. But, you know, it's a junk journal. But that still doesn't mean I have to pretend it was wonderful paint. You know, oh, here, that's cute, I think. You know, I'm serious when I say that when I found that ribbon at the Dollar Tree in Albuquerque, that just really kind of helped elevate everything. I like that ribbon. This is a fun, it's a fun element. It's a wraparound element, and you know, I like those. So I used the envelopes. So I tucked one inside, and so there's nothing in here right at the moment, but there's room for other things to tuck in there. And then with the loose flap, then I just made, you know, one of these. You've seen me make this peekaboo thing 1,000 times. But I haven't ever done it with 2 envelopes. So that was kind of cute. This side has this long trumpet kind of thing. My son-in-law is a trumpeter. He's a music teacher, but brass is his instruments, and trumpet particularly. And I think this is a trumpet, but it's very long. I don't know what kind. I didn't know there was more than one kind of trumpet before he came into the family. So you can see, you know, just hard to get a nice print, and the paint is kind of thin and pale. It makes kind of a texture, but yeah, I'm not really proud of my gel printing, except for one. So here's the one I am proud of. So this was the second pull. This was the ghost print, and it turned out really quite well, I think. I am kind of proud of this page. And I think with these strong lines, it looks good. There's some little sloppiness in there, but all in all, I think that's a great gel print. I hope Mama Juju's proud of me. Here's the center of the second signature. So the first signature center is just this envelope that is tied inside. Here's the second signature, and I just have folded up one of the crossword papers and then decorated it. It has one of the little coin envelopes inside, and then another journal paper with just some marks. So here is another pocket that I'm proud of. Just, you know, one of those simple folded pockets. But I think that the graphics on the page, the crossword graphics, this ribbon, again, I think really elevates it, and the little flower. One of the note cards, and tag, and then just an altered playing card. I think that's a nice spread. I like that. So this is on the other side of that nice ghost print. And, you know, I don't want to turn one gel print into a great philosophical metaphor for life, but But it was, the second pull. It was made from what was left behind on the plate. And, I just think it turned out well. And it's kind of ironic that, that leftovers was what really worked. One of the reasons why the project was so difficult is I started feeling an obligation kind of to the materials, because I had bought them, I had announced the challenge, I'd made the first video, and now I just had to make these work, and sometimes creativity doesn't respond well to have to. At least mine doesn't. But this is, I think, the point where perseverance is kind of valuable. There's the point where we become so determined to finish something that we nearly forget to ask whether the process is even giving us anything. But, the more I tried, the more I could figure out how to use the same materials again and again, like these crossword pages. My word, I didn't think they would work so hard for me, but they surely have. So these coffee dyed index cards are Dollar Tree cards, and they were already in my stash, but I didn't buy them for the challenge. The coffee, though, is just what's in my media cupboard. It's Folgers brand because it smells the best when I have to use it. I don't drink coffee myself, but the ladies in my club did, and Folgers reminds me of them. So that's another supply, I guess, that didn't come from Dollar Tree. But once I allowed myself to bring in a few things that I already owned, just to use my own texture paste and to buy the ribbon that actually worked, and to stop treating those original shopping supplies as some sort of sacred boundary, I began to enjoy the journal a little more. And I don't think that means I have failed the challenge. I think that my journal has turned out cute. These little peekaboo hearts down here. I just discovered what my real challenge was. It wasn't to prove that I could make a journal that was beautiful from Dollar Tree supplies. It was to figure out whether I could still find, myself in a project that was not going well. Here's another example. This is my prescription bag. And I just decided, if we can't use trash in a junk journal, then what's the point of it all? This little paper bag didn't cost me anything. It wasn't sold as a craft supply. No one designed it to be inspiring, but, give me a piece of actual trash, and apparently I'm happy again. So maybe that says something about me. So throughout the journal, I just kind of tried to come back to some of the things that I knew how to do. I know how to draw edges. I know how to make marks. I know how to repeat shapes. Stamping over something that I didn't want to see. Taking one piece of material and using it in 3 different ways or 5 different ways. Those are things that began to make the journal feel like mine. And perhaps that's the point of this and the lessons, that I learned. And sometimes we lose sight of that when we're surrounded by so many things in our stash. The supply is not the idea. The tool is not the creativity. And buying the right thing cannot make decisions for us. We still have to look. We still have to choose. We have to decide what belongs and what doesn't. And so, can the Dollar Tree supplies make a beautiful junk journal? Yes, I think so. That's not the question I'm really most interested in now, because Dollar Tree didn't make this journal, and neither did the playing cards or the envelopes, the paint, the crossword paper. The making happened in the decisions that I made. It happened when it didn't work, and I had to decide whether to change it or cover it or use it differently or just let it go. It happened when I stopped asking, I've got to use these supplies, you know, and only these supplies. And I started asking, what does this journal need? And that's, I think, where creativity lives, not having everything, not necessarily in having nothing, but in the space between what we have and our imagination. And I don't think this is the best journal I've ever made, but I don't think it's a failure either. And most importantly, I guess to me, is it doesn't matter whether you think it's a failure. That's the end of my Dollar Tree journal adventure. Thanks for coming along with me through all 3 parts of this story. The shopping, the struggle, the rescue, and finally the finished journal. I would really love to know what you think. Honestly, do limitations make you more creative? Have you ever bought supplies that actually make creating harder? I had one really lovely comment on the haul video that said, you know, she had learned a lesson for herself about supplies. I'm also interested, have you ever had a project that you nearly gave up on? I'd love to hear your thoughts, really. This was kind of a strange flip through. I'm not going to sell this journal. This is just going on my shelf. It's become too personal. As always, thank you for watching, my friends. I love your company, and I will see you next time with a brand new project.